Hello everyone, this is my first fountain pen video. I figured I'd jump on the 8 pen questions tag from Simone and Leanne Likes. I would just like to say thank you so much for having this conversation and asking these questions because it was very enjoyable to watch and to hear other people's perspectives on how they began their fountain pen journey and how their tastes have changed. And I wanted to go ahead and answer those questions as well because I want to remember what my answers are. So I guess I'll just get started. When and how did your fountain pen journey begin? It was several years ago. My first fountain pen was the Pilot Metropolitan, and I had absolutely no experience with fountain pens. And it was just some novel product that I found somewhere, and I just wanted to try it out, and it did not go well. So I think I promptly got rid of that pen. My introduction into the fountain pen community came through Amanda Rach Lee, who is a bullet journaler on YouTube, and she tried a Ferris wheel press fountain pen that opened my eyes to, I guess, the community, the inks, and all of the different pens that you could actually purchase, all of the different things, the different styles, and the fact that I could actually go online and find the answers to some of the questions that I had. After watching Amanda Rach Lee's video about her Ferris wheel press brush pen, maybe a few months later, I bought a brush pen as well, and one of the little 3-set chargers to go along with it. And so it was Pumpkin Patch Orange, Jelly Bean Blue, and I think it was Tanzanite Sky, like one of their earliest sets. And that was in 2019 when I purchased the brush pen from Ferris Wheel Press. So that was the very beginning of my fountain pen journey. So the Pilot Metropolitan was a trial and error type thing, and then I just went ahead and got rid of that one. But my real journey began with the Ferris Wheel Press brush pen. After that, I really got into looking for helpful videos on how to treat your fountain pen, how to maintain it, and how to clean it, and the kinds of inks that were best for your pens and things like that, because I was having trouble with that pen because the inks that I liked at that time were super bright or super light and super dry. So I loved the color of Ferris Wheel Press's Little Robinia, but it never worked for me. I fell into, I guess, a deep dive looking for good inks. Through that, I found Chris Signs and all of her ink reviews. This was one of the next pens that I had purchased after watching a lot of Chris Signs' videos. She loved TWSBIs, and I loved watching her videos about the TWSBI Eco and how it was lighter than this one, but I dove in and I went for a TWSBI Diamond 580. And with that same order, I purchased the Conklin Duraflex, and you can see it has a goulet nib because the actual nib that came with the pen didn't work properly. So these were my first two pens, and I figured that if I got the demonstrator pens, I can put whatever ink I wanted to in these pens and not have to worry about matching the colors. My favorite inks in the beginning, because I come from bullet journaling background, I loved to have like a standard super black ink. Noodler's X Feather fit that for me right from the beginning. I got a sample from Goulet Pens. It was one of those surprise me 8-pack inks, and I have really enjoyed that ink in an extra fine nib from the beginning. I also loved the Organic Studio Nitrogen. I used that one in an extra fine nib as well. So I never really had an issue with smearing, but my go-to inks now are quite different. These are some of the inks that I am very recently interested in exploring right now. I don't know if you can tell, but I do have a type. 3 of these look very similar to each other. But I believe this is bank paper. Yamamoto bank paper, I believe. But the Sailor Uramiku inks. So Tsukigokoro, Kitsune Biori, Kokoro Guma, Sailor Shikiori Rikucha. I haven't had a chance to swatch the Minori ink, but the ink that came with this pen is absolutely gorgeous. I love how it goes down green and it dries a brown color. And I actually love how, I forget which one of these two inks goes down like completely black and then it dries brown. I believe it might be this color. I really love the way these inks respond to different papers on different papers. These are the types of inks that I really love. Like right now, the greenish brown colors, and then your pop of lavender purple pinky blue teal color. So those are the ones that I'm interested in right now. That's how my tastes have changed. So not just like your standard blues and blacks, but I've gone to more earthy colors now. And it's actually the same thing with my fountain pens. I started off wanting to have the fountain pens that would take any color of ink, you know, any color that I wanted, and not exactly clash with the colors of the pen itself. So I was into demonstrators at the very beginning. I started to get into my favorite colors. So I still came, you know, I've still got some neutral colors, but the ones that really make me happy are these earth tones, these colors. Absolutely love them. They make me happy. Yeah. And so interestingly enough, this fits in here, and so does this one. So these are the colors that I really gravitate towards. So like the greens, the browns, the golden colors. That's how my pen tastes have evolved. So of course I have some other, like some outliers. Got these wonderful pens as well, but that's my usual color palette right there. I'm more drawn to specific nibs. My most recent interest into fountain pen nibs is with the Franklin Christoph, their Sig nibs. I absolutely love their Sig nibs. This one has, I believe, a Sig extra fine. This is a P20, model 45. Yep. This is, I believe, a fine Sig nib. Yeah. This might also be a fine. Yep, fine Sig. And this is a medium Sig nib. And I love the look of my handwriting with their Sig nibs and with an architect nib. You keep them in the frame, it's fine. Are there inks and pens that you have yet to try, but you would like to? I'd like to try the Aurora 88, Le Bon 325, the black and ivory version. I know they have multiple colors, but I think the black and ivory work well with my current tastes. Esterbrook Essie, not just the Esterbrook, but the Esterbrook J, the journaler nib. I would also love to try the Schoen Design Monarch nib. I have a background in industrial design, and I have to admire the work that Ian Schoen does on his fountain pens. I picked this up at the San Francisco Pen Show. My first experience at the San Francisco Pen Show was last year, and I picked this up from his table, and I believe this is also a grind from Gina. So let me turn this over. Yeah. And then in reverse. So yes, I would absolutely love to try the Monarch nib from Schoen Design. Ooh, inks that I would love to try. In the same family of these inks, I would love to try the Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho. And I've recently come across the great information. I forgot the YouTuber's name, but she mentioned that it's still possible to purchase the Inaho through AliExpress, and that's what I did. So I'm going to be waiting to get and to try Pilot Iroshizuku Inaho. And any of those like brownish, greenish, slightly golden, but not too golden inks, I would love to try any of those. I'm not exactly set on a specific brand or specific company, even though almost all of these are Sailor inks, but I've just been really impressed by their Yurimiku, the second release of their Yurimiku inks. Let's see, what is my Holy Grail pen? This used to be my Holy Grail pen. The Pelikan is the M400 in white tortoiseshell. It's an extra fine nib. This was my Holy Grail pen. Like, I love seeing this pen, and I love the stripes. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But as far as something that's unobtainable, or something where everything would have to be aligned and just some miraculous thing happen in order for me to get the pen, I don't really have one of those. I don't really have a pen or something that I can look to fit that description. I've recently seen on, I believe it's True Phase website, there is a Visconti that was made out of marble. Like, the body of the pen is marble. It is absolutely beautiful. It is a beautiful pen. But I cannot see myself wanting that pen because the pens that I have, all of the pens that I have, I will use these pens and I will be holding these pens for an extended amount of time. And that pen is heavy. That was one of the first things that I looked at when I saw that pen. I was like, it is so beautiful. Wait, how much does it weigh? That looks like a heavy pen. It is a heavy pen. Some of the pens that I look at and I believe they are absolutely beautiful, either I would not be able to write with them because they're physically too heavy, or I would be too scared to write with them because they're so expensive. So all of these pens, I have them and I use them. And I want to use them, and I don't want to be afraid to use them just based on the cost or the materials. Number 5 is don't really have one. Okay, so how many pens do I currently own? I currently own 53 pens, and that's including one pen that's on the way. I will say there are about 13 pens that I do not use and that I would probably be looking to either donate or sell. There are some of the pens that I either receive in one of those little mystery box orders, or pens that I just wanted to try out and see how I like them, or they're one of the less expensive ones that I used in closer to the beginning of my fountain pen journey. And since that time, I've come across other pens that I enjoy using more. I will be, reducing my pen collection, but yeah, currently 53. Ooh, how many inks do I have? I've got this many inks, this many full bottles, and this many samples. Whatever that number is, I know that number is too large. There are some bottles of ink that I just will no longer use, and there are so very many samples of inks that I will not use just because they're not my favorites and I don't see myself gravitating towards them, or even if I know that I'm not going to purchase a bottle of that ink, I can give that sample to someone else because I'm using these samples to see if I'd actually like a bottle of the ink, or if I just want to use it to enjoy it for a season, or if I'm not interested at all. Do you have a limit on pens or inks in your collection? Is it a number? Is it a feeling? When do you know you have reached your maximum? I do not have a limit on pens or inks. I would say it's more of a feeling than a number. If I have only pens that I enjoy, the number is not really that significant to me. I absolutely love what Simone mentioned in this part of her discussion. She mentioned that if you have a certain number of pens and you rotate them throughout the month or throughout the year, you'll only get to write with this pen a certain number of times. And I can see myself missing certain pens. So for example, I haven't written with this one in quite a while. You know, sometimes I miss writing with it, and other times it's just like, I really want to write with this one. I really just prefer to have a set number of pens for the month, maybe no more than 10 or 11. Use those, give an opportunity to each of those 10 or 11 pens. And now I'm giving myself permission to clean out those pens. If I'm currently just not wanting to write with them, I'll go ahead and clean them out. Let me check out the ones that are currently inked. So my March currently inked pens. So this is my currently inked. So I have all these pens inked up. And it looks like a lot of pens. But what keeps this from becoming overwhelming for me is telling myself it's okay to make the decision to unink a pen if I know that I will not want to write with it again for the month. If I see that it is this pen's turn and I would rather use something else because I'm not too in love with the ink color, then I will give myself permission to unink the pen. This one specifically, it has a lovely, lovely brown ink in here. Is it Van Diemen's? Laughing Kookaburra Crest. Beautiful ink, but I prefer it on the Tomoe River Weeks paper, the cream color paper. It's a very strange shade of brown for me on white paper. And I use the Hobonichi A5 Cousin. And this one doesn't really, I prefer not to use it. So I tell myself, you know, if you don't want to write with it, go ahead and unink it. I'll be uninking that pen. This is my third attempt at writing with this pen. It's okay. This has Polydoro Shizuku Ajisai. It's gotten a little bit better. I am trying my best to find that sweet spot for this pen. I'm getting a little bit better at finding the sweet spot, but I still haven't found the best ink for it. So I will be uninking this pen. I may be uninking this pen. It writes wonderfully, but the ink is dry. This is Troublemaker Kelp Tea. And I'd rather have something a little bit more, maybe a deeper color. Because for some reason, my Pelikan pens, like they are wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But they don't perform very well with drier, lighter color inks. And I've noticed that with this pen, and I wrote with something darker and it was wonderful. This one as well. I wrote with something lighter, didn't like it, put a darker ink in here, and I absolutely loved it. And I think I'm gonna have to do the same thing with this pen. So I'm gonna unink this one. I am going to ink this up with something else. This has Van Diemen's, the Elegant Peacock Train in here. So it's a shimmering ink. So it writes beautifully. But the actual shimmer particles in this pen, I guess it's too much of a hassle to have to come in here, open this up, and make sure that I'm agitating the ink. Because sometimes it will move around, other times the little air bubble gets stuck. And I don't want to have to almost completely disassemble the pen just to agitate it. And then, after a few lines, the actual ink itself on the paper won't show all the hard work that I did to agitate the pen. So I will be uninking these pens. So that's leaving me with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, 6, 5. By the end of the month, I'll probably have 5 pens. I've tried 11 and I'll be sticking with 5. And I believe that that is a really great way for me to do my currently inked pens, because this is also a wonderful pen. Wonderful ink, but it's very dry. It starts out writing so great, so well, but by the time I'm done, or by the time I fill up an entire page, this is a very, very dry writer. This is Colorverse C Europa. Beautiful color, but a dry ink. And this has the actual opposite effect. This Visconti Mirage Mythos is inked with Colorverse C Europa, and it is a very, very wet pen with a wet ink. So I don't know if I can show, but it is super shiny. I would actually want to see a drier ink in this pen, and that's a first. Actually, I'll say no, it's the second time. The second time I've experienced this, where I would prefer to have drier inks in these 2 pens because they are such wet writers, such wonderfully wet writers. So I'll be uninking this pen as well, but just because this one actually takes forever to dry. I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pens inked by the end of the month. Now, I've been able to try 11 pens, but really, really enjoy 5. And I feel really good about doing that. This has Diamine Alpine. This one has Sailor Ink Studio 280. This is the Minori ink color. This is Sailor Ink Studio 123. And this is actually so wonderful in this pen. This is Pelikan 140. It should be an extra fine nib, but I believe it's a bit thicker. This has Diatramenis Jane Austen. Very beautiful ink. And I guess this is why I'm okay with having a larger number of pens and a larger number of inks without having a specific limit or a specific number. Because in this way, I actually get to use all of my pens at least once. At least all of these pens at least once in the month, but really concentrate and focus on a very small number throughout the month. And then maybe in a following month, I'll get a chance to reuse these wonderful pens. These are wonderful pens, absolutely lovely pens. But I'll get to have another shot with them and a better ink. So yeah, there is no maximum for me. I just know that there are some pens that I probably won't keep. So for example, I have a Lamy Studio. I don't like the section. It's a very smooth, slippery section. But the one that I will keep is this one. It's the matte black. And I know that I will be keeping this pen and probably selling this one. And I have a couple other ones as well. So I have the TWSBI Diamond 580 that I purchased very early in my fountain pen journey. But I also have another TWSBI Diamond 580 that I received in a mystery box with a stub nib. I don't really have a reason to keep this one around. It's got a wonderful stub nib. It writes wonderfully, but I don't gravitate towards this one. Whenever I'm selecting my pens for the month, this isn't one that I usually consider because I have this one. I have all these other ones that I prefer to use. Instead of having something that's just sitting around, it's perfectly fine. I've actually had a shimmer ink in here before and it performed beautifully. No issues, no problems, no nothing, but I prefer all of these other ones. So I'll be selling or giving away some of these other pens that I won't use as often. But what would I do if another pen or ink came along? I've become much less impulsive with my fountain pen purchases. I'm still pretty impulsive sometimes, but most of the time I'm waiting with a certain pen in my cart. I waited so long for this pen. It's been on my list for probably several months, if not more than a year. And the same thing with this pen. I was actually not going to purchase it, and it sold out basically in all of the your typical retailers, and I made the decision to purchase it when it was available on eBay. So I got this on eBay. It was more expensive than it was if I had just gone ahead and bought it, but I wanted to be sure that this was something that I would enjoy because it didn't, like the actual colors of the pen did not resonate with me. But the more that I looked at it, I don't know, it was something about this pen, and it was something about the ink too. I absolutely love the ink in this pen. It is wonderful, and I do not regret purchasing this pen. I can't look at it and say that I know why she purchased this. You know, I know why I purchased this because of this color and this color. No, it was not because of these colors, but it was because of the full experience with this pen. So it took me a long time to purchase this pen. It took me a long time to purchase this pen. It took me a long time to decide to purchase this pen. So these pens right here, and this one actually, this is one of my more recent purchases. It took me a very long time to purchase these pens. And it was the same thing with this one. The Sailor Manyo Nuts with the Shirakashi ink. Absolutely love the ink. I love the ink. I love the pen. I love the color of this pen. And I waited until it was almost sold out everywhere to purchase this one because I wanted to be absolutely sure. And this is one of my favorites, one of my favorite pens. And it's not in my currently inked, but it will always be inked with Shirakashi. Just like my black TWSBI will always be inked. It's not in my currently inked, but it will always be there just in case I just feel like writing with these pens, or just in case I can't make a decision about, you know, which one of these pens to write with, or if I say, I don't want to write with any of these pens. I want to write with, you know, one of my evergreen pens. These are my pens that will always be inked with a specific ink. I might be switching out this one. This is my gray ink. I need to clean this out and re-ink it because the ink is starting to look black. This is inked with Mont Blanc Cool Gray, but it's looking much darker than normal. So I'm going to be re-inking this one very soon. This has Shirakashi, and this is Noodler's X Feather. This has Robert Oster Old Book Smell. So this is the kind of this is the kind of red that I'm okay with using. The red that's basically a brownish red color. Let me take a quick swipe at this one. Oof, yes, very wet ink. I guess that's about it with my fountain pen journey, how it began and how it's going now. So with my 53 pens, the one pen that's on its way, the 53rd pen, is the Visconti Kaleido in, I believe it's called Unicorn Galaxy by Jonathan Brooks. I'm getting a custom nib grind on that one. I purchased it in a fine nib with a cursive italic grind from Nibsmith, so it's gonna take a few months to get here. But I wanted to be sure that it would write well and that I would be absolutely pleased with the nib right from the start. So one of these Franklin Christoph pens actually has a cursive italic nib. This one has a cursive italic. Okay, so this is the extra fine sig nib. This is a fine sig nib. This is a medium sig nib. And this one has a cursive italic fine. That's what it is. This has a cursive italic. And of course it's not inked. I wanted to see if I preferred a cursive italic or a sig nib. And I actually love both of them. I absolutely love both of them. And so I purchased a cursive italic nib for the Visconti Collection. That is my fountain pen journey. Thank you again, Simone and Leanne Likes, for this tag. I'm not sure what to say after this since it's my first video. I guess I could make additional videos in the future. If you'd like to, I guess, learn about these pens or my thoughts about any of these inks. Oh yeah, I'm also part of the, I subscribe to the Ink Flight boxes. So I absolutely enjoy swatching new inks. And yeah, maybe I could do the little Ink Flight boxes as well, the Ink Flight reveals. I enjoy watching Amanda B Ink Splats videos, and I guess I could contribute to the community in that way as well. But let me know if you are interested in watching those, and I'll do that. In the meantime, or until then, I will see you all, or you'll see my hands some other time. Thanks again. Bye.